Hi, I'm Andy Miocha and you're watching A News. Here are the headlines. Death toll of mass shooting in Montenegro rises to 12. Three-day national mourning declared. A car explodes outside Donald Trump's Las Vegas hotel. Investigators looking for links with New Orleans attack that left 15 dead. German government condemns New Year's Eve violence after hundreds of arrests. Thank you for tuning in. 3 days of mourning have been declared in Montenegro after a man killed 12 people, including 2 children, and wounded 4 others in Cetinje. The suspect, Aleksandar Martinovic, faced with the police, shot himself in the head and died on the way to the hospital.
At least 12 people, including 2 children, were killed in a mass shooting in Cetinje, Montenegro. The violence began in a restaurant in the historic capital of Cetinje, where a verbal argument escalated into a shooting, according to police and local media. The attacker, identified as 45-year-old Aleksandar Martinovic, initially killed several people inside the restaurant, including members of his own family and the children of the restaurant owner. He then exited the premises and continued shooting in the street, killing 2 children, police sources reported. Authorities confirmed that the gunman fled the scene but was later surrounded by police. Despite attempts to persuade him to surrender, he fatally injured himself. According to police, the suspect received a suspended sentence in 2005 for violent behavior and has appealed his latest conviction for illegal possession of weapons. Local media have reported he was known for erratic and violent behavior. Interior Minister of Montenegro Danilo Saranovic attributed the incident to disturbed interpersonal relations, while Montenegrin Prime Minister Milojko Spajic expressed deep sorrow, calling the event a terrible tragedy. He announced 3 days of national mourning to honor the victims. 4 individuals remain in critical condition after being seriously injured during the shooting and were transferred to a hospital in Podgorica for emergency surgery. As mass shootings are uncommon in Montenegro, a small Balkan nation with a population of about 600,000, the incident has shocked the country.
A Tesla Cybertruck filled with fuel canisters and fireworks exploded outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, killing the driver and injuring several people. The FBI is investigating whether the explosion is tied to terrorism.
A Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas on Wednesday, killing the driver and injuring 7 others. The FBI is investigating the blast as a potential act of terrorism, especially following a similar incident earlier in New Orleans, where a truck attack killed 15. Eyewitness videos captured the explosion, sending flames and smoke into the air. Authorities later found burned canisters inside the truck, suggesting explosives may have been involved. Tesla CEO Elon Musk confirmed on social media platform X that the explosion was caused by large fireworks or a bomb in the truck's bed, not the vehicle itself, and that all vehicle telemetry was positive at the time. The Cybertruck had been rented through the car-sharing service, and the driver's identity has not yet been revealed. FBI and local police are working to determine if the events in Las Vegas and New Orleans are connected.
We're tracking the explosion of a Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans.
Las Vegas police noted that the Cybertruck's design helped limit damage with no major destruction to the Trump Hotel.
So the question is there any links to ISIS? And I will tell you that we don't have any indication of that here in Las Vegas. No overt ISIS flag as was seen in New Orleans. But again, we are investigating every aspect of this.
The explosion occurred just hours after the New Orleans truck attack, prompting heightened concerns about potential coordinated incidents. The connection between the 2 events, as well as the motives behind them, remains unclear as federal, state, and local agencies collaborate on the investigation.
U.S. authorities say they believe multiple people were involved in an attack in New Orleans that killed 15 and wounded dozens on New Year's Day. The driver of a pickup truck that sped into large crowds has been identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. Army veteran from Texas. U.S. President Joe Biden says the attacker was inspired by the Islamic State group, and the FBI says the group's flag was found in the truck.
15 people are reported dead and dozens injured after a truck was intentionally plowed into a crowd on the famous Bourbon Street in New Orleans. The driver was shot dead at the crime scene.
The subject has been identified as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen from Texas. He was driving a Ford pickup truck, which appears to be rented, and we are working to confirm how the subject came in possession of this vehicle. An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations.
President Joe Biden said the FBI informed him that Jabbar posted videos online hours before the attack, expressing support for ISIS and a desire to kill. President Biden's statement emphasized the attack's gravity as the FBI investigates further. Multiple questions were raised by the public about the security barriers meant to protect pedestrians from vehicles. These barriers were removed for replacement due to malfunctions prior to the attack. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry addressed the situation, saying they recognize the problem and will fix it. Officials announced that all parties and events will be postponed for 24 hours, including the famous Sugar Bowl, a New Year's Day college football tradition in New Orleans.
The German government condemned a series of incidents on New Year's Eve in which police officers and firefighters were attacked and injured, mostly with fireworks. In Berlin, 400 people were arrested after confrontations and attacks on police officers over the course of the night that left 30 policemen and 1 firefighter injured. Hundreds of police officers from the country had been deployed to the German capital to prevent further violence, while 5 people have been killed across Germany in accidents involving fireworks. Day earlier, German police and firefighters unions called for a nationwide ban on private fireworks following dozens of attacks involving pyrotechnics on emergency forces in previous years. Protests near the presidential residence in South Korea continued with clashes of supporters and opponents of impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. The protests were sparked by a court's approval of a warrant for his arrest related to his controversial attempt to impose martial law.
Demonstrators, both supporting and opposing South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, gathered outside the presidential residence amid growing tensions over his potential arrest. Yoon, facing an unprecedented arrest over his controversial attempt to impose martial law, has become the center of a political storm. Pro-Yoon supporters argued that any attempt to arrest the president would be illegal, while anti-Yoon protesters demanded that he resign and accept his arrest as soon as possible to resolve the ongoing political crisis.
So we gathered here, protect our president. The other party, they tried to arrest him, which is really illegal. So here we like to show our just citizens' power. So now time is all legal thing is gone in Korea. So only we have to protect our country with our citizens' power.
윤석열은 즉각 하야하라! 즉각 구속하라! 즉각 구속하라! 혁명!
공수처에서
The Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials is trying to arrest President Yoon Suk-yeol, but he's saying he won't accept being arrested. This does not make sense. We are here today to express our wish that he quickly accepts his arrest, faces detention, and steps down as soon as possible to bring an end to the current political turmoil.
끝내주기를 우리는 바라는 뜻에서 이 자리에 나왔습니다.
On Tuesday, a South Korean court approved an arrest warrant for President Yoon Suk-yeol, making him the first sitting president in the country to face potential detention.
The warrant stems from allegations that Yoon tried to orchestrate an insurrection by imposing martial law during political unrest. The Corruption Investigation Office is leading the probe, with a joint team of police and prosecutors tasked with executing the arrest by Monday. However, questions remain about the logistics of the arrest, given previous attempts by Yoon's security to block access to his office and residence.
Over in the UK, Manchester experienced severe flooding after heavy overnight rain, leaving roads submerged and cars abandoned. Downpours, which began on New Year's Eve, left huge swathes of Greater Manchester underwater. Over 100 residents in the area have been evacuated. Hundreds of homes were also left without power. 16 flood warnings remain in force around Greater Manchester. Russian gas supplies to European Union countries via Ukraine have ended after a 5-year deal between Ukraine's gas transit operator Naftogaz and Russia's Gazprom expired. Kyiv earlier said the deal would not be extended.
Russian gas supplies to Europe via Ukraine ended as a 5-year transit deal between Russian Gazprom and Ukraine's Naftogaz expired. Kyiv has refused to negotiate a new transit deal, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying earlier that the deal would not be extended, giving the EU a year to prepare. The European Commission said the continent had sufficient capacity to cope with the end of transit via Ukraine. Moldova, which is not part of the EU, could be seriously affected as the gas fueled a power plant on which the country relies for most of its electricity needs. It also supplied the Russia-backed breakaway region of Transnistria. The Soviet-era pipeline via Ukraine brought gas from Siberia via the town of Sudzha, now under the control of Ukrainian soldiers, in Russia's Kursk region. It then flowed through Ukraine to Slovakia, where the pipeline splits into branches going to Czechia and Austria. Ukraine is giving up some $800 million a year in fees from Russia, while Gazprom will lose close to $5 billion in gas sales to Europe via Ukraine. Russia can still send gas to Europe through the Turk Stream pipeline across the Black Sea, while most other gas routes to the continent are shut, including Yamal Europe via Belarus and Nord Stream under the Baltic that was blown up in 2022. The EU has significantly reduced imports of Russian gas since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022.
Russian officials warned of severe environmental damages. Thousands of people came out to clean up tons of fuel oil that spilled out of 2 storm-stricken tankers more than 2 weeks ago in the Kerch Strait. More than 10,000 people, largely volunteers, raced to rescue wildlife and remove tons of sand saturated with mazut, a heavy, low-quality oil product. It's estimated that up to 200,000 tons of soil and sand may have been contaminated. Officials of the Krasnodar region last week announced a region-wide emergency as the fuel oil continued washing up on the coastline 10 days after one tanker sank and the other was left damaged and adrift on December 15th. Ivory Coast has announced a major decision to end the French military presence in the country. This move reflects broader changes in West Africa's approach to its former colonial ties. The shift comes as anti-French sentiment continues to rise in the region, further complicating France's military strategy in Africa.
Ivorians expressed their reactions to President Alassane Ouattara's decision to end the French military presence in Ivory Coast. Many welcomed the move, which redefines the West African nation's ties with its former colonial ruler.
I praise the leadership of the Ivorian president because Ivory Coast is a responsible country. The agreements have been signed since 1960 with the late President Félix Houphouët-Boigny. We are in 2025, that is to say more than 50 years later, and the talks that the president has had with France, I think it's really diplomacy.
It's true that it's taken a long time, but today if we've reached this point, it's because it's the right time. There's no debate about it. Today, if we're at the end of our contract, it's good for everyone.
Ouattara announced on Tuesday that French troops would depart, marking another step in France's broader military withdrawal from the region. France has been scaling back its forces in West and Central Africa, reducing its presence from around 2,200 to approximately 600 troops. Separately, Senegal confirmed the withdrawal of French troops from the country would be completed by the end of 2025. Ivory Coast is home to the biggest remaining contingent of French troops in West Africa, with some 600 French military personnel. France has already pulled its soldiers out of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, while the government of Chad abruptly ended its defense pact with France in November 2024.
A massive blackout struck Puerto Rico on New Year's Eve, leaving much of the island without power. While essential services were restored, residents faced uncertainty as efforts to bring electricity back to all affected areas continued.
Puerto Rico experienced a massive power outage on December 31st, leaving nearly the entire island without electricity. The blackout began early Tuesday morning, affecting most of the island. By 9 p.m., power had been restored to critical facilities like hospitals, but over half of the island remained without electricity. Luma Energy, the private company overseeing power distribution, indicated that it could take up to 48 hours to fully restore service. As residents scrambled to prepare for the possibility of extended outages, many rushed to gas stations to fuel up generators.
We've been without electric power since 5:30 this morning, so we're stocking up here so we can turn on the generator to sort things out for tonight.
Well, according to what I've heard, it's going to take a while to get all the power back up, so we are going to prepare so we're not caught off guard for 2 or 3 days.
The outage is believed to have been caused by a failure in an underground line operated by LUMA, which knocked out power plants and disrupted private generators. Spokesperson Ivan Baez explained that the failed line took down both public and private power sources. In response, Governor Pedro Pierluisi urged Luma and Genera to expedite the restoration process, posting on social media platform X. This power failure highlights ongoing concerns over Puerto Rico's aging electrical grid, which has struggled with chronic outages for years.
Over in Spain, Barcelona celebrated the arrival of 2025 with the traditional New Year's bath among the golden sands and waves.
Barcelona welcomes 2025 with the traditional New Year's bath. Usually associated with snow and cold, taking this traditional bath outside would mean braving ice-cold water this month. Luckily for Spain, people are enjoying the sun, loud music, and beautiful waves of the Mediterranean Sea. Barcelona's beaches, particularly Barceloneta Beach, are famous for their golden sands and vibrant atmosphere. With temperatures reaching 13 degrees Celsius, people did not miss the opportunity to fulfill this tradition once again. People are running into the water, dancing to music with their decorated hats and glasses on, and welcoming the new year in the most vibrant way possible. Locals, alongside foreigners, are getting the best out of the holiday.
I'm actually feeling warm. It's actually not that cold. Starting the year in the ocean, which is nice.
The truth is that for me it's very joyful and very fun, and it is also very nice to feel everyone's company.
The celebrations continued for a few hours as curious onlookers, swimmers and tourists celebrated the first day of the year on the popular beach of Barcelona.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you for tuning in and keep watching A News.